Okay, today we will discuss English paper of today's grand test, that is IBPS Clerk Prelims 2024, grand test number 3. So here, except reading comprehension, we will discuss the grammar part. Let us see question number 1 to 10. In the passage given below, there are 10 blanks, each of which is followed by word given in bold. Each blank has 4 alternative words given A, B, C, D. You have to tell which word will suit the respective blank. Mark E as your answer if the word is given in bold is correct. That is no change required. See here, this is called as cloze test. You are provided with some words. If there is any mistake in that word, you have to identify with the given options, and if everything is correct, no change is required. Let us see the passage first. India has 2 complex and affiliated problems. The first is to bring a vast population out of poverty and into decent lives. The second is to do this while dealing responsibly with the global carbon challenge and building strength to climate change. While India is often mentioned along with China in climate related discussions as a greater emerging economy, the two are very different. India ranks 130 among the nations in Human Development Index and China ranks 86. In spite of solid recent improvements, India still has 364 million living in multi-dimensional poverty. Mostly a third are multidimensionally poor and essentially a fifth are vulnerable to becoming poor. Almost half the country is therefore in high risk from events such as loss of jobs or ill health of a family member, mixed with the damage from severe cyclone, flood or drought. Each subsequent shock will have a multiplier effect on hundreds of millions, potentially preserving them deeper into poverty. It is clear that past development frameworks have not improved well-being across social strata. Instead, evidence indicates that economic growth has gone hand to hand with rising inequality and creation of a small but powerful class of super rich. See here, India has 2 complex and affiliated is not correct. Affiliated means controlled. Affiliated means controlled. Here we are talking about 2 complex, that is very difficult and dash problems. The first is to bring a vast population and into decent life. The second is to do while dealing responsibly with the global carbon challenge and building. So here you are talking about 2 problems that are correlated to each other. So here we should use the word interrelated. It is not affiliated, it is interrelated. So India has 2 complex and interrelated problems. That means both the problems are related to each other. So what is the first problem? To bring vast population out of poverty. So India, there are so much population living in the poverty. So we have to bring them out of poverty and we have to make sure that they are running the decent lives. The second is to do this while dealing responsibly with the global carbon challenge and building strength to climate change. Second one is the climatic problem. One is the poverty, second one is the climatic problem. So these 2 are the problems which India is facing and these 2 are interrelated to each other. So second one is to do this while dealing with the global carbon challenge and building strength to climate change is not correct. Here strength is not appropriate. Here we should use the word resilience. Resilience. What do you mean by resilient? To recover from misfortune. Resilience means to recover from any misfortune. To recover from misfortune is called as resilience. So here building resilience is correct. Building resilience to climate change. While India is often mentioned along with China in climate related discussion as a greater economy. So here we are using the word comparative degree. So here comparative is not used. Whenever we talk about two things, greater is used when we talk about two things or two people. Here we are talking about only Indian economy. Greater, when we should use, it is a comparative degree. Greater is used to compare two things or two persons, then we have to use greater. But here we are talking about only about Indian economy. So here we should not use the word greater. Here you should use the word large. Large is correct. Large economy, not greater, it is large. Large economy. So greater is used for comparison. Here we are not comparing anything. So here we are talking about only Indian economy. So that is large. Second one is to do this responsibly, dealing with carbon challenge, building resilience to climate change. While India is mentioned along with China in climate related discussions as a large economy, emerging economy, the two are different. India ranks 130 among the nations in Human Development Index and China ranks 86. In spite of solid improvements is not correct. Here we are having, see the words rare, wicked, peeping, remarkable. So here we are talking about some achievements. The achievements are memorable or improvements. Improvements, we should make memorable improvements. So we should use the word remarkable. In spite of remarkable recent improvements, India still has 364 million living in multi-dimensional poverty. Mostly a third. Here you should not use mostly. Here mostly it is not correct. So instead of mostly we can use nearly. Nearly one third is correct. Nearly one third. So not mostly, it is nearly. Nearly one third. Nearly a third are multidimensionally poor and essentially a fifth. And essentially a fifth. So here we should not use the word essentially. Here essentially is not correct. See, this is interrelated. Next one, resilience. Next one, it is larger. Next one, remarkable. Then next one, nearly. Now, coming to the sixth one. Here we should not use essentially. Nearly a third are multidimensionally poor and about. Here we should use corrective preposition, that is about. Not essentially, about a fifth. About a fifth, that means about 1/5 are vulnerably to becoming poor. So in India, even though there are so many improvements are there, India still has 364 million people living in multidimensional, so variously layered poverty. Nearly a third are dimensionally poor and about a fifth are vulnerable to becoming poor. So some are thrown into the poverty. So nearly 19.1% are vulnerable to becoming poor. Although half the country is therefore at risk. So here whenever you are using the word risk, we should use at, not in. It is at risk. It is at risk. At risk is correct, not in risk. So whenever you are using the word at risk, we should use the preposition at. At high risk. So what are the risks? From events such as loss of job or ill health of a family member. So poverty means two things. One is the loss of the job of a person, that will result in poverty. Second, ill health of a family member. So if any member of the family is having ill health, then most of the amount is spent on hospital expenses. So that in that way also we will be thrown into poverty. Dash with the damage of severe cyclone. So here mixed is not correct. Here combined is correct. Here we are talking about so many problems. One is the personal problem. What is the personal problem? loss of a job or ill health of the family. Other nature problems. What are the nature problems? Severe cyclone, flood or drought. So, these are the personal problems. These are combined with the nature related problems which will result in poverty. So, here we should not use mixed, here we should use combined. So, what is the difference between mixed and combined? Mixed means bringing together in a unstructured manner. In a unstructured manner. Combined means joined with. Combined means joined with. So, each subsequent shock will have multiplier effect on hundreds of millions, potentially pushing them into deeper poverty. So, all this will have the effect on millions of people, pushing them into poverty. So, these are all the problems. With these problems, so many people are pushed into poverty. It is not preserving, it is pushing. Pushing into poverty is the correct word. Pushing into poverty. It is clear that past development frameworks have not improved well-being across. It is correct only. Here, no correction is required. Across social strata. That means across different sections of the society, social strata. Instead, evidence indicates that economic growth has gone hand in hand. Hand in hand means well supported with rising inequality and creation of small but powerful class of super rich. In India, clearly we can see the rising inequality. Rising inequality means there are more rich people. Less rich people. There are less rich people and more poor people. See here, the creation of small but powerful class of super rich. That means rich people are very less. More people are in poverty. If more people are in poverty, automatically the country will be in the developing stage only, it will not be developed. Now, let us see one by one. India has two complex and interrelated problems. The first is to bring a vast population out of poverty into decent lives. The second is to do this while dealing responsibly with the global carbon challenge and building resilience to climate change. While India is often mentioned along with China in climate related discussions as a larger emerging economy, the two are very different. India ranks 130 among nations in the Human Development Index and China ranks 86. In spite of remarkable recent improvements, India still has 364 million living in multi-dimensional poverty. Nearly a third, that is 27.5%, are multidimensionally poor and about a fifth are vulnerable to becoming poor. Almost half the country is therefore at high risk from events such as loss of job or ill health of the family member. Combined with the damage from a severe cyclone, flood or drought, each subsequent shock will have a multiplier effect on hundreds of millions, potentially pushing them into deeper poverty. It is clear that past development frameworks have not improved well-being across the social strata. Instead, evidence indicates that economic growth has gone hand in hand with rising inequality and creation of a small but powerful class of super rich. Now, let us see the next one, 11 to 15. Here, read the following sentence to find out whether there is any error. The error, if any, will be in one part of the sentence. The number of that part is your answer. If there is no error, then mark 5 as the answer. In the near future, here there will be only one error, we have to identify that error. In the near future, entrepreneurs could make use of rapid lowering storage cost to build decentralized neighborhood scale micro-utilities managed by locally owned enterprises and cooperatives. In the near future, entrepreneurs, business people could make use of rapidly lowering is correct. It is not rapid lowering, it is rapidly lowering. Why? Because rapidly qualifies the lowering which is an adjective. Rapidly qualifies lowering which is an adjective. So, here rapid lowering is not correct, rapidly lowering is correct. So, we are having the error only in the third part. Rapidly lowering storage cost to build decentralized neighborhood scale micro utilities managed by locally owned enterprises and cooperatives. Then, Germany has recovered from the efforts of Hitler when the terrorists of the former Soviet Union have been less fortunate, showing us some of the dangers from muzzling universities. So, here Germany has recovered from the efforts of Hitler. Here we should use while, not when. It is while. When we should use while and when we should use when. While is used to talk about two longer events. While is used to talk about two longer events happening at the same time. So, whenever you are describing two events which are occurring at the same time, So, whenever you are used to talk about two longer events which are happening at the same time, we should use the word while. When we should use to introduce a completed event. When we should use the word when, it is used to introduce a completed event. Whenever we want to talk about any one completed event, see, this is happening event, this is completed event. So, whenever we want to introduce any completed event, that means, see, he was walking into the room when the explosion occurred. Example, he was walking into the room when the explosion occurred. So, explosion is already occurred. So, we are talking about one explosion that has already taken place. At the time I was walking into the room. So, when is used to introduce a completed event, while it is used to talk about two events happening at the same time. Whenever we are talking about two events which are occurring at the same time, we should use while. See here, Germany has recovered from the efforts of Hitler, while the terrorists of former Soviet Union have been less fortunate, showing us some of the dangers from muzzling universities. Here we are talking about the events that has occurred in Germany and Soviet Union at the same time. So, here we should use the word while. So, only B is the error. Then let us see the next one. A world authority in the field of linguistics, Professor Chomsky has been a trenchant critic of the US establishment for over 50 years. So, here we should use critics, not it is critic. A critic is a person who expresses an unfavorable opinion. Critic is nothing but a person who expresses a unfavorable opinion. Unfavorable opinion, not favorable opinion, unfavorable. A critic will always tell about the negatives of any one incident. So, critic means those who will highlight the negatives of anything, that is the person is called as critic. So, here critics is plural. Here we are talking about one person called Professor Chomsky. Since this person is a singular, we should use singular verb. So, critics is plural, critic is singular. So, critic is the correct answer, it is not critics. So, only C, we are having the error. Next question. In a less proactive way, the Harvard economist John Kenneth Galbraith had incisively pointed out why the core of American economy was constituted by the military industrial complex, uncovering also its political power. So, here we should use how instead of why. We should use how. How and why, what are the difference? So, how means how the incident happened, it is the manner how an incident occurred, it is the manner how the incident occurred. So, it is used to know the manner in which something has happened. So, if any accident is there, we will tell how the accident has happened, not why the accident has happened, how the accident has happened. So it will describe the manner how the accident has occurred. So here also, whenever you are talking about how the incident has occurred, we want to know how the incident has occurred. That means we want to know the manner of the incident, we should use how. Why means we should tell, if you want any reason, then we should use why. So why means why is used to find out the reason, how is used to find the manner how the incident has occurred. How means it is the manner how the incident has occurred. Why means the reason why the incident has occurred. So that is the difference between how and why. So here we are having the error in second part. Lest we lapse into the defeatism telling that our own universities have always failed us, we may want to reflect on the discourse on India's economic policy some 15 years ago. So here defeatism is not correct, it is defeatist. Defeatism is a noun. Defeatism is a noun. We should use defeatist. D-E-F-E-A-T-I-S-T. Defeatist. So defeatist means it is an adjective. Defeatist means adjective. So here defeatism is not correct, defeatist is correct. Lest we lapse into the defeatist telling that our own universities have always failed us, we may want to reflect on the discourse on India's economic policy some 15 years ago. So here lapse into is the phrasal verb. Lapse into is the phrasal verb. So after the verb we should use adjective. So adjective means defeatist. Lapse into, this is nothing but a phrasal verb to qualify the verb. So adjective, defeatist is correct. Lest we lapse, always phrasal verb is followed by the adjectives, that you should remember. So lapse into is a phrasal verb. After phrasal verb we should use adjective. Defeatism is a noun, we should use defeatist. So which is the adjective. So answer is only A. Only A we are having the error. Next question 16 to 20. For each of the following questions, a part is given, part or whole of the original sentence has been highlighted. You have to find the best way of writing the bold part of the sentence. Option A repeats the bold part. If the bold part is grammatically correct, then choose option A. See here, bold part is there. If there is any error, we have to replace with the given things. If it is same, then option A is the correct. That means if the sentence is correct, that means bold part is correct. If the bold part is correct, that bold part is repeated again in option A, then option A is the correct answer. See, almost half the country is therefore at high risk from the events such as loss of job or ill health of a family member. So here this is definitely correct. Almost half of the country, because country is a singular. Half is only correct. We should not use halves. Halves is not correct. Half is correct. This sentence is grammatically correct. So option A is the correct answer. Next one. Combined in damage from severe cyclone, floods or drought, each subsequent shock will have a multiplier effect on hundreds of millions, potentially pushing them into deeper poverty. Combined in is not correct. Combined is a word followed by preposition with. Combined with is correct. Combined with damage from a severe. Combined with damage from a severe cyclone, flood or drought, each subsequent shock will have a multiplier effect on hundreds of millions, potentially pushing them into deeper poverty. Next one. Add to this the current rural distress and the large youth. See, youth is a plural. Youth is plural. You should take plural verb. Bulges is singular. We should use bulge. Bulge is plural. Bulge means to become large. To become large. So here add to this current rural distress and the large youth bulges. The large youth bulge is correct. Here the large youth bulge with few jobs. Few job prospects. The large youth bulge with few job prospects. and country is in dire straits. Country is in dire straits. So, here youth is a plural. So, you should not use a also. A is for singular, but youth is plural. So, you should not use a, that is not correct. We should not use bulges, that is also not correct. So, here bulge should come and we should remove a. Now, next one. Instead, evidence indicates that the economic growth have gone hand to hand. So, here only we can find the error. Economic growth is a singular. Economic growth is a singular. We should use have or has. We should use has. Don't use have. Since economic growth is a singular, use has instead of have. Instead, economic growth indicates that evidence indicates that economic growth has gone hand to hand. Has gone hand to hand with rising inequality. With rising inequality and the creation of small but powerful class of super rich. So, here hand and hand is correct, with rising inequality is correct. Here we should use gerund form. Gerund form. What do you mean by gerund? Gerund is nothing but verb plus ing form. So, rising is correct. Inequality. What type of inequality? Rising inequality. Rising inequality and creation of small but powerful class of super rich. Next question. The synergies. Synergies means interactions. Synergies means interactions of meeting SDGs, reduces greenhouse gas emission and adapts the changing climate change should be realized fully if transformative and cross-scale changes are conceived, deliberated upon and tested widely. See, if you read this sentence carefully, here we are using the word changing. So, the sentence should synchronize with this part. So, here we should not use reduces, here we should use reducing. Since here it is changing, here we will use reducing. So, the synergies of the meeting SDGs, reducing greenhouse gas emissions, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting. Here also adapts is not correct, we should use adapting to a changing climate. So, changing climate is a singular, so we should use a only. Can only be fulfilled, fully realized, can only be fully realized if. Should be is not correct, can only be fully realized if. Now, again if you read the sentence, the synergies of meeting SDGs, reducing greenhouse gas emissions and adapting the changing climate and adapting to. See, always adapt is a word followed by preposition to. So, adapting to is correct. We are talking about climate change, so A is correct. Can only be fully realized, can only be fully realized if transformative and cross-scale changes are conceived, deliberated upon and tested widely. Here we are using if conditional. Here using if conditional. So, here we should use can, not should. Should not be used, it should be can. Can only be fully realized if transformative and cross-scale changes are conceived, deliberated upon and tested widely. So, with this we completed the today's English grammar part.